So welcome to my episode on 10 out of 10 RPGs. Now these are RPGs that I played throughout my life, and I believe that they do deserve the 10 out of 10 right next to them. Now there's no official list out there for 10 out of 10 RPGs. These are just my personal picks that I think deserve the 10 out of 10 treatment. And I'll ask you guys, what are some 10 out of 10 RPGs that you played in your life? Games that blew you away, you couldn't get enough of, you spent hundreds of hours playing them. Let me and everybody else know about them down below. I always like doing these episodes because I get to go through my collection and look at all the RPGs that I finished and say, hey, is this a really good game? Is this a 10 out of 10 game? And I'm like, yes, it is. I will agree with one thing. I believe that nobody will say the last game that I mentioned today is a 10 out of 10 game. I can't believe that anybody would say that except for me. And I have a very interesting entire reason for that. But let's start at the beginning. And at the beginning, we have to go back to 1993. We were getting the Sega CD in this country. And it was a really, really big deal. And a lot of the games at first we were scratching our heads at, looking at going, oh no, full motion videos. I don't really like the looks of that. Is this the future of gaming? And we were kind of nervous about it. But through all that darkness, there was a beautiful silver star that shone the way, and that was for Lunar, the Silver Star. And it also came out as the Silver Star Story in 1999 when they did a remaster of the game. And then we finally got a remake of that just came out this year. But I just want to talk about the Silver Star and the Silver Star Story here. And yes, in 1993, when I saw this game, I was like flabbergasted. In fact, I was so obsessed with the game that in my room at the time in 1993, I would take video game magazines and I would cut out any advertisement for Lunar and I would put it up on my wall, and I had like a whole bunch of them back then, and I would just stare at it and I'd go, oh my God, look at the cinemas, look at the characters, look at the animation, look at the graphics. This was like cutting edge stuff. And I could only imagine to play this game on CD. I'd already been playing Eastbooks 1 and 2 at that time on the TurboGrafx, and I loved it. But I had a big rivalry down the street where a friend of mine was getting a Sega CD, and he was like, no, it's better than the TurboGrafx. And I'm like, no, the TurboGrafx is cool, but I'm also interested in the Sega CD. And then the day finally came, and I've talked about it a few times on the show, where I traded most of my collection to buy a Sega CDX to be able to play Lunar. And was it worth it? Oh my God, when I think back to all the games that I sold back then, probably not. But the game was fantastic. And that summer, I played the game so very, very much. I even convinced my friend Andrew to buy it. He was very upset about it because he didn't think it was a 10 out of 10 game. But I was enamored. And why was I enamored? It really was the character designs. It really was the story, the beautiful, simplistic story. You know, it's really a story from the 1990s where you're just a kid that wants to grow up to become a dragon master. That's it. That's the thing. And then you find out about Galleon and how he's the evil in this world, and you end up trying to stop him. What I liked about it was the music was just beautiful. The overworld music, the combat music, everything did it for me. Even from the Silver Star to the Silver Star Story, I like both versions equally. Yes, I lean more towards the Sega CD version because it was the first one I played, but both versions really stand out to me. And I'll show some remastered footage of the opening because it'll make it a little bit nicer to look at. But looking at some of these cinemas, and it was remarkable, and the characters had voices. And yes, the voices at times weren't good, but they were a product of the time. And we all knew that the voices were like that. I mean, a lot of games back then, even on the TurboGrafx CD, some of the voices were horrific, but we embraced them. We embraced the horrific.
Get off your butt and set out on your own fantastic adventures.
We enjoyed it all together with the gameplay and the combat. And I loved the side view combat. It was giving me that Final Fantasy vibe that I really, really loved. And I'll never forget that summer playing the game and getting to know these characters and getting to play in this world And it's one of these things, it's fascinating. I go to my local game store at Press Start Games, and the owner, Russell, always tells me, oh, everybody comes in, they all love Lunar. Collectively, it's one of those games when it's in the display shelf, everybody's like, oh, I love Lunar. It's just one of those things that draws from an innocent time. I did something very, very well, and it just brings in that raw emotion of the players from 1993 to 1999 to the year 2025 when we get to play the remastered version. It's got something for everybody in there. And if you want to see what old combat was like in 1993 and 1999, you can do that again. But I promise you'll have a really rewarding experience going through the world of Lunar. So I definitely recommend the remastered version that just came out, the collection. It's a great way to jump into that world. Now, 3 years after Lunar was released in this country in 1993, in 1996, we got a really crazy game on the Super Nintendo. And it was one of those collaborations that I still marvel at, even to this day. It's been many, many years. And I was reading about it in video game magazines. I was seeing all of the articles and all the, the pre-visuals of what this game was going to be. And that was by Nintendo and Squaresoft. Got together to create Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars. And this is my original copy. I bought it day one. I brought it home. I put it in the Super Nintendo. And I was a little bit taken back. And I was taken back because I was playing all of the Mario games back then. And they're all very whimsical and nice and very happy. Where with this, all of a sudden we had this real dark aesthetic. And kind of almost a claymation look to all of the world. And it was kind of, I know it sounds kind of strange to say, it was a bit creepy back then, in all the best ways possible. It was showing us that, oh no, this is not the Mario that you've been playing, this is a darker side of that world. And we had that with the music, with the enemies, with the environments, the exploration, and we finally got a complete RPG starring Mario by Squaresoft at the time. And yes, even in the later years of 1996 on the Super Nintendo's lifespan, this was a huge game. And I remember playing it back then and leveling up and getting into the combat. And I love the timed attacks with the combat. I love the enemies. And yes, there's a lot of combat in the game, but that's what we expect from RPGs. But I guess, the other thing that really gets me about the game is some of the other secrets within the game. And I'm not going to say too much, but there is other entities from other Final Fantasy games that are thrown in here. And so it's a very Squaresoft game by its heart. And I was so beside myself when they released Super Mario RPG, a remaster of this original game. And they did a phenomenal job with this, taking those old graphics and updating it for a brand new audience to play this game, to jump right in and to play this game and to experience what we all experienced back in 1993. And I honestly, when I got this game, I wasn't really talking to a lot of people about video games back then. I had my friend Rob, but I felt when I was playing this game, I was the only person in the world playing this, really appreciating it. And it's been amazing over the years to talk to a lot of you about this game and how much you adore Super Mario RPG. Did you play it when it first came out? Let me know down below. But a definite 10 out of 10, a true classic was born in 1996, and I thought it was going to be good. I didn't know that I'd be talking about it all these years later. Now we have a list of bucket list games that we're always trying to get to, and we finally got to this one. I was playing it 10 years ago on the Wii U, and that is for Xenoblade Chronicles X. And I started playing this game, I was marveling at it back then, and then things happen. Sometimes it happens, your life gets busy, other games come out, other shiny objects show up, and you start following them. And this gets put on the back burner and you're always like, yeah, I gotta get back to it. And especially on a show that we have, sometimes it gets really shoved to the back, and that's really unfortunate. But with the definitive edition that just got released in 2025, Me and my wife got to jump into this game. We're 100 hours in, and I've got to say it. This is a 10 out of 10 game. There is not a shadow of a doubt about it.
Smashed them up good. Now move in.
Now the story is not totally crazy. It says you're part of a lifeboat that crashes down on this planet, and you create new LA, and you've got to secure the parameters and explore the planet. And this is where things get through the roof crazy, because the planet is massive. We're 100 hours in, and we're near the end of the game, but there's so much questing, there's so much to do in this game, totally overwhelming in the best way possible. If you're looking for a game to jump into and get your money's worth out of, this is the game for that. I want to say that the characters are really great looking.
Charming. Hey, more charming than you, at least.
Combat is brilliant and really engaging, especially when you get your scale armor, later on the mech suits, and you can fly around. We finally got it so you can fly around in the air, and the song that plays there is amazing, but it's such a great exploration game, and I've often said that it's kind of like exploring the world of Avatar. It's so brutal. There's so much alien life out there that just wants to destroy you, and you're just struggling to survive and explore the world and secure the perimeters.
Get the next one in face.
A brilliant game, very different than the other Xenoblade Chronicles games, and that's why I applaud this game so much. It's its own thing, and that's what I really like. But you also get to talk to other alien life forms throughout, and the story does develop about a truer, bigger evil that's out there, but I'll kind of save that. But really exploring this world, the combat, the execution of it all, the graphics, and yes, I know, you say the graphics, it's a 10-year-old game, but it holds up extremely well, and I think that's another big shock. But as soon as we were playing this game, when we hit around the 80-hour mark, I just turned to my wife and I'm like, this is a 10 out of 10 game. And yes, we've gone on record before to say that this music is very odd. It is, and it's odd in all the best ways. It's one of those things, it's annoyingly amazing, and it really grows on you over time, and I bought the soundtrack to it. That's how much I liked it. If you've not played this, I highly recommend jumping into the definitive edition of the game on the Switch and giving it a shot if you like really giant RPGs. Now we have to jump back into 2008, and this game was released. It's the same year that I started the show, which is really amazing, and I was playing this game at the time, and I didn't review it at the time. I was just a fan playing the game, and I loved it, and I finally get to talk about it here today, and that is for Lost Odyssey. And I picked this up on the Xbox 360, and I brought it home. This is by Mistwalker and Hironobu Sakaguchi of Final Fantasy fame. He kind of left Square at that time and started his own company, and I didn't really know what to think or what direction he was going to go in. And then I saw some of the character designs and I'm like, whoa, this is very kind of a really adult RPG he's working on, and he's kind of in a collaboration with Microsoft at the time, and I'm like, how is this going to play out? And when I picked up the game and I started to play it, I was kind of baffled by it. It was such a gigantic in scope game with some gigantic battles, and that's kind of how it kind of starts off, and you're just kind of thrown in there as this legendary hero who's lived for 1,000 years, and I'm like, okay, here we go. And I start to play the game, and I don't admit this too often, and I've very rarely ever had this happen in a video game, but I got tears with this game through some of the story elements. And I don't even conceive, I even have shivers thinking back to the moment when I did. And I don't want to ruin the story, but as I said, your main character has lived for 1,000 years. And so he's met a lot of people within that time. He's met wives, he's had children, but he continues to get older, and they live in that time period that we all do. We only have a short lifespan, and so he's seen many things and it's heartbreaking, some of it, and it's really well executed. And I just want to say something as well, that this game is the Final Fantasy that we wanted and needed back then, and we didn't get, but we got Lost Odyssey. And it was a big game. Like, look at this. It's like 3 discs. And that was the amazing thing. We're like, 3 discs? It was never packaged too well. But I was like, 3 discs? This is like a big deal game. And it was. I was always so happy I found a spot in the game at the time. I saw an early YouTube video back then in 2008, and somebody was showing how there was like a glitch in the game where you could go to this like little island thing. And I don't have any footage of this or anything like that, but there was a glitch where you could do like infinite experience, where you'd fight some enemies and just level up like a super amount. So I got really powerful in the game and sailed through the game. That was really great. But I loved the combat, the turn-based combat. And yes, at the time, it had long load times. But in our digital times now, they're not as bad as they were reading off the discs back then. And so that bumps it up for me. But even back with the loading times, I didn't care. When we got into combat, I was just like, here we go. Let's do this. I love this. I love the character designs by the great creator of Slam Dunk, one of my favorite basketball manga animes back then. He's the character designer. And I didn't know that for maybe about the first year. I didn't put 2 and 2 together. And when I did, I was like, no wonder I love these character designs so much. And they're brilliant, brilliant stuff. And Lost Odyssey is a bit of a lost gem in the history of time now. And it's one that I really want to say is a 10 out of 10 game. It was unusual, it was strange, it was ahead of its time, and a true JRPG classic for all time, and one that I really recommend. And if you want to just buy a copy of the game, you can still get it fairly cheap. Oh my goodness, I just said that, it probably won't be now. But really, you can go down to your local video game store and pick this up and try it out for yourself and learn about the history of Mistwalker and Lost Odyssey. Okay, we get to my last game that I really think deserves a 10 out of 10. And I will go on record as saying, I think I'm the only person in the entire world that may say this. And it's a kind of crazy one to say. And I've got a big reasoning why I do. And that is for Dragon Slayer, The Legend of Heroes, released in 1992 for the TurboGrafx over here. It was released on the PC Engine in Japan. It was one of the very first Legend of Heroes games ever released. And I adored this game. I adored this game so much, and I got it for Christmas in 1992 when it was released. And how am I going to justify this to anybody out there? You'll be looking at the graphics right now and you'll be like, has he lost his mind? And maybe I have, but I don't think so. And I'm honestly going to say this score of 10 out of 10 for this game is purely for nostalgia for me personally. I could never give this nostalgia to anybody else. It only resides in myself. And it was that Christmas that I got this game, and I was really excited to play it. And honestly, even back then, the graphics weren't blowing my mind. And especially the voice acting. The voice acting in this game is insanely bad.
I'm sure you'll agree that your time would be better spent in study rather than chasing those ghastly green jelly globs.
Yes, the voice acting is atrocious in this game. But oh my god, it makes it so appealing. And it's so beautiful for me to think back to 1992 when I got this game for Christmas. And I was like, okay, you know, the voice acting, I sat there and I recoiled back. I was like, oh my god. And I played Last Alert, and this game is that bad. I played Final Zone 2, and this game is that bad. I couldn't believe it. I'm like, how dare you?
My Lord Drax, I bring you Prince Lugan.
Ah, my dear Prince, welcome to Castle Sylvan.
Drax, what's the meaning of this?
How dare you release this game with such terrible voice acting? And these graphics are mediocre at best. There was other RPGs that were better. But the proof was in the pudding of the game itself. So during that time, I played it over that winter break, and I finished the game. And I think back to this game way more than I should. In fact, every Christmas, every single Christmas since 1992, I play all of the music for this game. It is my theme of Christmas. I know, it's kind of wild. It's my theme of Christmas from back then. From living in my parents' basement, getting this game that Christmas, playing it earnestly, and at that time not loving everything about it. But over time, I've got more and more nostalgic about this game, about the combat, about how novel it was, about the terrible voice acting, about everything not being as great as what it should have been then, but over time has grown on me more and more. That opening cinematic.
Battered and confused from the surprise attack, the soldiers of Farlane were unable to prevent the monsters from entering the castle walls.
How can a game like this be a 10 out of 10? It is for me personally. It is. I think back to this game very fondly, and I've gone back to it many, many times and started to play the whole opening. And one time, I really want to spend some time and go through the game all again and really relive it, because in my mind, it's a 10 out of 10. Isn't that fascinating? It just is. Every imperfection makes it a 10 out of 10. Isn't that interesting? I'm sure a lot of you out there have games that you love that are not great games, that you say, this game is a 10 out of 10 to me. Could I sell anybody else on this being a 10 out of 10? Probably not. But I thank you all for listening to my rant about Dragon Slayer, The Legend of Heroes. And I just love the artwork from back then. Right on the cover with the crest. And even the artwork on the back with all of the characters and the map there. Is nostalgia such a drug that all these years later is affected my mind that way? Yes it is. And I just love thinking back to the TurboGrafx, and look at the map in there, looking back to the TurboGrafx and that time period in my life. And I was a younger John then, and I still was enthusiastic back then as I am now. And I know it sounds crazy, I still remember sitting on my bed cross-legged, playing it in my room, and just totally engaged in the storyline with the pirates and everything that it had to offer to, with the characters, and being a part of Prince Logan trying to reclaim his kingdom, and listening to the horrible voice acting throughout and being totally charmed by it. Totally charmed by it. I love it. So guys, these are some more games that I really feel deserve a 10 out of 10. Even Dragon Slayer. I know, even Dragon Slayer. What are some games that you think deserve a 10 out of 10? Some RPGs that you played that you're like, I don't think anybody else in the world would ever feel this way about this game, but I do. Let me know down below. So anyways, guys, until next time.